Hey guys, welcome back to this week's pull here on Comic Relief Cast. I am your host Jake.
And I'm your host Josh, and this is What Are We Reading?
It absolutely is, as you guys can tell by the thumbnail and probably by the title of this episode. You've clicked on the DC episode for the week, and we also always mix in the indie stuff with the DC because DC has been cutting back their titles. It's easier to mix in the indie stuff with the DC instead of the Marvel. If you guys haven't already checked out the Marvel episode for this week, be sure to do that as well. But we are going to kick this episode right off with Superman issue 10 by Brian Michael Bendis. And is it Ivan Reyes? I always forget. I think it's Ivan Reyes.
I think it is Ivan Reyes.
But yeah, so basically this issue is more telling the story. It's expanding on Jonathan Kent, how he got older, how he got out, and he's telling Lois and Clark on how that happened. And we get a glimpse at Rogol Zaar. Jonathan has come into contact with Rogol Zaar. We only see it briefly, but it might lead some answers as to who Rogol Zaar is. What do you think, Josh?
I thought it was the Superman run for the most part has just been consistently average.
Yeah.
There's nothing really that happens that's really exciting or anything, but it's not like it's bad. There's only been a couple issues that have been like kind of really dull.
Yeah, it's had some very low highs and very mediocre lows. I don't know. I mean, it stays pretty consistently average, like you said. So I don't know. I'm not beating the drum on this one, but it's fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm gonna go ahead and give it 2.5 gleeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm at 2.7 gleeks.
All right, I'm gonna be moving on to Orphan Age, or Orphanage if you want to call it, from Aftershock Comics. It's number 1. It's by Ted Anderson and Nuno Platti. And what this reminds me of is a little bit of like The Walking Dead, but it's mixed in with something like The Handmaid's Tale, kind of. It's basically what they say is this flood kind of came in like Noah, back in the days of Noah, and it wiped out all the adults. I don't know how that how it just targeted the adults, but it wiped out all the adults, and they're all kind of rebuilding their civilization. So they all kind of live in like little house on the prairie towns. Everyone's kind of back in the early 1900s. It seems like with technology, and they're all trying to like band together, build up their communities, stuff like that. It seems like a couple of these people have some shady past, and then when you find out that the antagonists are these really religious zealots who come in, and they're kind of masquerading under the guise of being these religious like prophets and stuff, but they're just basically there to massacre people. It's an interesting premise. It seems like the protagonist is probably going to be this one man who kind of came into this town. He's on the cover, wounded and bleeding, and then this little girl who becomes an orphan, hence the name. But it's an interesting little book. The art isn't my favorite, but I think it works for something like this. It works much better in a book like this than it would for something like a superhero book. But I found it interesting. If you guys want to give it a read, it is from Aftershock Comics, and it's called Orphan Age. I'm going to give this book 2.75 gleeks.
All right, I read Batman 68 by Tom King and Amanda Conner. It's still following the Nightmare story, like that story arc, and the only thing good about this book really is the Matina variant. It's very kind of childish. You're following a bachelor party and a bachelorette party for Batman and Catwoman, and we already know how that goes. But it was pretty. I'm just gonna say 1.7 gleeks.
All right, I'm moving on to Prodigy issue 5 from Mark Millar and Raphael Albuquerque. And if you guys have been reading this book, you guys kind of know what this is all about. So this is kind of the book culminating. I will say that my one gripe with this book is it doesn't spend a lot of time with your quote-unquote antagonist. It's spending a lot of time with your main character and how he's able to do all these really cool things. And it is really cool. It's really cool to see him be able to time events in real time down to the second and plan things out and stuff like that. It's very neat. It's taking a lot of cool things from ancient history and kind of putting them all together. And we finally get to see in this book what it's all trying to culminate to. Much to my surprise, it's actually getting an issue 6. I thought issue 5 would be the kind of wrap-up. I thought it'd be a standard 5-issue thing, but it's going to be an issue 6, which doesn't come out, weirdly enough, until June. But I'm really digging Prodigy. I think it's not Mark Millar's best stuff. It is his original content, though, and I always do enjoy that. So for that, I'm going to give this book 2.8 gleeks.
All right, I read Faithless by Brian Azzarello and Maria Lovett. This is an interesting book. It follows a character named Faith who practices magic in a way, but you don't really ever see her do it. And she's just kind of living life through the mundane life until she meets someone. If you like witchcraft and you like explicit lesbian sex scenes, this is the book for you. And I'm going to give this one I'll give it 3. Some of those scenes are pretty arousing, I guess, at times.
Are you worried you're going to sound like a perv for enjoying it?
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, moving on to Wonder Twins issue 3 from Mark Russell and Stephen Byrne. And if you guys have been listening, you know that I'm kind of on the fence with this book. I think Josh is enjoying it a little bit better than I am. But I will say that this book, it does have some nuggets in it every now and then that just I really cling to, and that's the most memorable part of the book for me. Every issue seems to be Jaina and Zan kind of dealing with something else about acclimating to Earth life. And in the very beginning, there's a really, really good conversation between, I think, Jaina and Superman. And I never really, I guess, made the connection that they're both aliens from other worlds who have kind of made this their adoptive home. So, you know, they're kind of asking for mentorship from Superman. And I found that really interesting way Superman puts it. I'm going to spoil this little kind of nugget because I clung to this part of the book. It's when he says that the true superpower isn't invulnerability or super speed or super strength. It's being able to recognize that this world is just so full of problems, and if you know, something to the effect that
you don't go crazy.
And you don't go crazy. That's the real superpower, is realizing you can't solve all the problems and it doesn't drive you nuts. That's the real superpower. And I thought that's ingenious. And there's another one at the back of the book. But this one, it introduces Gleek the monkey, and you get a little bit of backstory on that. It's fun, but it is, for the most part, a lighthearted book, but with some really poignant moments.
I'm actually enjoying the Wonder Twins a lot. I'm enjoying it more than I'm enjoying it not as much as I've some of the other Mark Russell stuff. I think it's because of the sense of I like to view this as something that you could have a kid read and they can learn these lessons, but at the same time they can still enjoy it because it doesn't take you away from it. The Flintstones, it was constantly that kind of material, but it could go over the head of a kid.
Yeah.
This, I feel like, it doesn't go over the head of a kid, but it also gives you these little pieces of knowledge of life that it's the hard stuff to learn and that you can actually learn as you get older.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy it. I know I enjoy it more than you do.
Yeah. Well, from like the Flintstones, I was expecting more commentary and satire. You know, like taking what we know of the world today, making fun of it, but also pointing, highlighting it at the same time. This one really tones it down. I'm sure it's DC, like, hey, don't do it too much, you know what I mean? So I think it's Mark Russell showing some restraint, and that's fine. But I kind of want something a little bit more hard-hitting, I guess, from it, like I thought the Flintstones was. With this one, though, I will say I enjoyed this one. It's going to be a 2.9 Gleeks from me.
And for me, it's going to be a 3.2 Gleeks.
All right, I'm going to be moving on to Hawkman, issue 11 from Robert Venditti and Brian Hitch. You guys, I have made it no secret how much I'm enjoying this series. This book, again, no different. If you've been reading this book, you know what it's all coming to. This is the War of the Hawks, basically. It's all the different versions of Carter Hall and all of his previous incarnations fighting off the Deathbringer. So it's just a ton of different versions of Carter Hall, one from Ran, one from Krypton, one from ancient Egypt, and all this stuff, just a bunch of different versions, one from the Microverse. They're all fighting off the Deathbringers who have come with Edam to fight off Carter Hall. And it's really good, and this book did not kind of culminate and end the way I thought it would. It much to my surprise, but that's a good thing. I like when books can be unpredictable, and this book ended in a way I found to be unpredictable, and I'm very happy about that. This book gets a 3.75 Gleeks from me.
Nice. Okay, I read Catwoman number 10 by Joelle Jones, and the art is done by Fernando Blanco, and I've been enjoying the Catwoman run. Lately, I've been a little out of it, but it's just still good. It's still it's connecting the past two story arcs to make this new story arc. It's kind of connecting the first story arc with this Penguin story arc that was going on there for a couple of issues. And it's kind of putting those together while creating a new story arc. It sounds a little confusing. I'm making it sound like Inception.
It sounds like
story arc within a story arc within a story arc.
It's bridging some other story arcs together.
It's bridging them all together. And I'm really digging this storyline. The thing is that bugs me is I miss Joelle Jones doing the art on the book. Now, Fernando does a very good job at kind of like imitating that same kind of style, which does help with this book. I think that was part of the thing that made that first story arc so great was the Joelle Jones doing the art and the writing, because it made this it gave it a good aesthetic. And this one, you kind of still get the aesthetic, but it's still kind of missing something. I still really enjoy this run. I'm still really enjoying the covers. Joelle Jones does one of the regular covers, and Art Germ does the variants. I'm going to give this one 3.7 7 gleeks.
All right, and we're going to be moving on to the last issue for the episode. It's what everybody's been wanting to talk about, I'm sure, is The Batman Who Laughs, Part 4 from Snyder and Jock. So there was the first 3 issues, then the Grim Knight issue kind of came out as a little interlude, but it's not in the main numerical continuity as The Batman Who Laughs, but it was kind of, I would say, a necessary read to read this issue. Yeah. I think it's something you should definitely have picked up. Hopefully your local comic shop owner or worker, whoever told you to pick that up if you're getting The Batman Who Laughs, they did do their job if not. But this book, I'm 75-25 on. 75% very positive on, 25% not so sure how I feel about this particular issue. Josh, how do you feel?
I'm the same way. This one, like, I'm not going to lie, I had to go back and reread a couple of pages. It took me a little bit longer to read this than it did the other issues because there was a few things that I couldn't either grasp onto the idea or there was something about it that just didn't seem like it fit with the rest of the, not saying that it didn't fit story arc wise with the rest, just aesthetically. It's like my favorite word of this podcast, guys. Aesthetic is the password. But it wasn't like aesthetically, like there was something about it. I'm like, well, you went from this thing and then Snyder did this thing that he's been doing on Justice League where it kind of gets a little like cartoony and convoluted. Yeah, but it gets kind of cartoony, the idea of what this is going on. And I'm going like, this sounds like something like a kid made this up, and I don't like that. Right. But at the same time, I still am enjoying this run, and then Jock does great on the interiors. Yeah. I am the same way as you. I'm 75-25% on this book.
One of my nitpicks is honestly the dialogue bubbles and stuff. When you have a green background and then you make a word in red, it's like all the words are white except the red word. There's one word that's red. It makes it really hard and difficult for me to see.
No, you're colorblind too. But let's also throw that out there.
It makes it very difficult for me to see.
It does make it kind of difficult. You got to really kind of look into it.
But then the other thing is too. There's a lot of talk about the metal, the Dark Knight metal, or whatever it's called, the nth metal. I forget what they called it. The metal.
It's the nth metal, but it's the dark metal.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it, dark metal, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about that, right? And they kind of spit it out rapid fire, and they mention it so many times, so often in this one part of the book that I had to kind of go back and reread. Okay, what are you talking about? The visor's made out of dark metal, but he's using the dark metal, but there's a portal for the dark metal, and I'm just okay, hold on, there's a lot of stuff going on here that you're just throwing out the word dark metal.
Kind of like as if a kid was to create a comic book.
A little bit, yeah. And then there's a conversation here between Batman and Joker that I did not like. I just didn't like that interaction. It didn't do anything for me. I thought it should have more of an impact, and I really found myself kind of bored with that interaction, and I thought that would have been one of the highlights of this book.
The interaction I was okay with. I felt like it could have been better, but I feel like for those fans of Killing Joke, they're gonna love it. This is
okay, I know exactly what you're talking about, but
it's just like one of those interactions that I'm just like, somebody some hardcore Joker fan is still gonna really dig that interaction.
And I'm not saying it's bad. I just, from what I remember of Snyder and Capullo's New 52 Batman, some of the best parts were between Joker and Batman. Those were some of the best moments. And I beat the drum of Snyder redefined Batman for an entire generation, or not Batman, but Joker for an entire generation with those first 3 volumes of Batman New 52. I thought this guy's reinvented the Joker. And in such a great way. And this, I just didn't find any of it clever. I didn't find any of it smart.
I found it very Alan Moore. Not very Alan Moore, but it's just taking Joker back down to the generics.
Yeah, exactly. It felt very generic. It felt very flat to me. And then like I said, there's crossing between portals and stuff. It gets a little messy. You're not exactly sure who's who and where's where, but it's fine. I was able to follow it enough. But then the last part of my 25% not sure how I feel about it is the end reveal, because it's not explicitly stated who this reveal is. I have a couple theories about who it is and who it might be, but it's not explicitly stated. And I have one theory that's my prevailing theory, and that I really hope is the route that they go, because I think that would make for one hell of a twist.
Yeah, I don't know. There's that thing, but knowing Snyder, I feel like the reveal was something. It wasn't like you're supposed to just automatically know. But I think if it was a twist to it, I think that would be really cool.
Well, there's one person they allude to in this book that I feel like it's almost spoon-fed to us. So if that's the reveal, boo on you, Snyder. But if you kind of pull out the rug from under us and you make it a real twist, then I'm gonna applaud. I'm trying not to give any spoilers, but I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I think actually now that I'm talking more and more about it, I might be a little bit more 70-30 instead of 75-25 on this, because there's a few things that I wanted to have a bigger impact. I wanted to have more of a gut punch, and it just didn't do it. It felt a little flat, but I'm still really enjoying this, guys. There's some really great moments.
Yeah,
in this book.
we're talking a lot about this, but it's not that we don't like it.
There's a
we
lot of
still like
speculation to be had about this book, and because there's only 6 issues, I feel like you want to talk about it, and you're curious about it. And let's be honest, Batman Who Laughs is probably one of those books. Every time it comes out, people are looking forward to it. That's the thing. Maybe that week they're looking to pick up the most.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the more popular of the books that comes in that we get in the shop.
Absolutely. So with that, guys, I will say the positives though. The opening, I did not see that coming. I thought that was a really interesting opening. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it yet, but in a good way. Like I liked it. And then Batman is doing detective work. I like the Batman doing detective work. I really do enjoy that, and I like that Snyder keeps opening that up. And then the very beginning, he addresses something about the way you look through the world. I kind of wanted that to be carried out through the rest of the book a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are probably my same positives. Yeah. Is the Batman doing detective work. The opening was pretty interesting, caught me a little off guard.
Yeah.
And I do like that premise. I mean, it's the way it's written kind of comes off a little childish.
Yeah.
But and I say childish as in like not somebody who's well experienced that did the New 52.
It sounds like it stems from the imagination of a child. Like what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean those were the positives for me too.
All right, and now before you go typing away about how much we hated this book, here's our grade for it. I'm gonna give the Batman Who Laughs issue 4 3.6 gleeks. It's a solid book.
3.6 gleeks from me as well.
All right, guys.
I like it when we're in sync sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm Justin.
All right. That's all we've got for you guys this week on the DC and Indie episodes. Let us know if there's anything that we should have covered for you guys. If you wanted to hear us talk about it, we'll be sure to try and read it if we can. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts on any of these books, or if you were going to pick one up, let us know if you did. If you weren't going to, but now you are, let us know. If you've read them already, let us know your thoughts. Share this with your friends who read comic books. Hit that like button, or feel free to hit that thumbs down button. And of course, guys, subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 1,000. Help us get there. We appreciate all your support. And be sure, like I said, check out that Marvel episode on the channel now. And we will see you guys next week.
Nice outro, Lance Bass.